There's a certain magic in the sky, a kind that belongs not to commercial airliners or military marvels, but to the sleek, silent thrones of the clouds. Private jets. Today, the term invokes images of Gulf Streams and Learjets coasting over oceans, but the roots of private air travel are older, deeper, and surprisingly more dramatic. From the industrial tycoons of the 19th century who funded the earliest flying contraptions to the billionaires and entertainers of the 1980s. Cruising above the chaos and leather-seated luxury, private aviation has long been a symbol of prestige, power, and possibility. This is the story of the 10 most legendary private aircraft and the proven extraordinary individuals who flew them from 1875, when the dream of personal flight was still a fantasy, to the glitzy opulence of the 1990s. At number 10, the dream that preceded wings, Cornelius Vanderbilt's aeronautic fantasies, 1875, while true jets wouldn't emerge for decades. The concept of private aerial travel began with wealthy dreamers like Cornelius Vanderbilt. In the late 19th century, Vanderbilt backed several balloon and glider experiments. Though primitive, these contraptions represented the earliest spark of luxury air travel, the idea that the sky could be privately conquered. Jet cost estimated investment, around $150,000, 1875 value in balloon and airship experiments over $4 million today. Adjusted for inflation, Vanderbilt, always ahead of his time, wasn't chasing science, he was chasing prestige. In a world still tied to railroads, the notion of floating above the cities was seen as madness. But Vanderbilt's support for inventors foreshadowed what the rich would soon crave. Sky-high solitude. At number 9. Howard Hughes, H-1 racer, the billionaire who took the stick. 1935. Before there was a Learjet, there was Howard Hughes. In 1935, Hughes stunned the world with his custom-built H-1 racer, designed not for warfare, but for speed and personal triumph. Jet costs approximately $100,000 in 1935 and over $2 million today. Though not a jet, this sleek, silver Arrow represented the first time a private citizen commissioned an aircraft that outperformed military planes. Hughes didn't just fly it, he broke records in it. The H-1 was less a mode of transport than a message. The sky belonged to those bold enough to buy it. At number 8, the Lockheed Vega, Amelia Earhart's choice. 1930s, though not a billionaire, Earhart's fame gave her the freedom of flight that few private individuals enjoyed. Her bright red Lockheed Vega, used for her solo Atlantic crossing, was a custom purchase. Jet cost? Roughly $25,000, $30,000 in the 1930s, and over $600,000 million today. For high society women of the 30s, Earhart's Vega was more than a plane, it was a cultural earthquake. By owning and modifying her own aircraft, Earhart became one of the earliest celebrity aviators, and her legacy opened the skies for countless private flyers. At number 7, the Boeing 307 Stratoliner. Howard Hughes, again 1940s, not content with speed, Hughes wanted altitude. His refitting of the Boeing 307, a commercial airliner, converted into a floating palace, became one of the earliest true private jets in concept. Jet cost. The aircraft costs about $315,000 new in the early 1940s. Hughes retrofitting pushed it to over $500,000, about $9.5 million today, featuring a master bedroom, a galley, and a lounge area. The Stratoliner was the first aircraft that felt like a luxury hotel in the sky. At number 6, the de Havilland Comet, Saudi royalty's favorite 1950s, the first commercial jetliner in the world. The Comet was quickly customized by Saudi royalty and oil magnates for private use. Jet cost? Base price of around £300,000, £400,000 GBP in the 1950s. Roughly $1.2 million USD then, about $13 to $15 million today. Custom retrofits added millions more. One notable owner was Prince Talal bin Abdulaziz, who had the Comet retrofitted with gold-trimmed furniture, velvet lounges, and even a prayer room. At number 5, the Lockheed Jetstar, Elvis Presley's Sky King. 1960s, no private jet was cooler than the Lockheed Jetstar, and no owner more famous than Elvis Presley. Jet costs around $700,000 in the late 1960s, about $6 million today. Custom interior, additional $200,000. The King of Rock and Roll transformed it into a crimson and gold flying lounge. For the first time, a celebrity owned a jet that matched their myth. At number 4, Frank Sinatra's Learjet 23, flying on a tune. 1965, Sinatra's ownership of the Learjet 23 made headlines. Smaller, faster, and designed for personal use, the Learjet was the sports car of the skies. Jet costs about $500,000 at the time, roughly $4.5 million today. Sinatra loved the speed and flexibility, often flying between gigs, homes, and spontaneous vacations. His Learjet wasn't just efficient, it was a declaration of independence. At number 3, Aristotle Onassis, BAC 111, a billionaire's business lounge. 1970s, Onassis needed a jet to match his empire. His British Aircraft Corporation 111 was a converted jetliner fit for royalty. Jet cost about $3.5 million for the Jet Plus. $2 million in retrofits, about $30 million today, with private bedrooms, conference areas, and luxury catering. It became the standard for how billionaires outfitted their jets. At number 2, the Boeing 707. John Travolta's aviation obsession. 1980s Travolta, a licensed pilot, bought and retrofitted a commercial-grade Boeing 707 for personal use. Jet cost. The aircraft itself was acquired second-hand around $1.20, $1.5 million. But retrofitting and maintenance pushed total value to $5 to $7 million, over $18 million today. It wasn't just a collector's piece, it was fully functional. A movie star piloting his own commercial jet made aviation personal again. At number 1. Donald Trump's Boeing 727 gold-plated Ego. 1989. In the late 1980s, few jets symbolized excess like Donald Trump's Boeing 727. Jet cost. Original used purchase price was about $8 million, but Trump's luxury retrofitting pushed it past $13 million, roughly $30 million today, painted in black and gold, featuring leather couches, gold seatbelt buckles, and a marble bathroom. This aircraft wasn't just a plane, it was flying. Pressed. From balloon fantasies to gold-plated jets, the era from 1875 to the 1990s traced the rise of private aviation. From speculative science to ultimate status symbol, these 10 aircraft weren't just marvels of engineering, they were extensions of ambition. Whether owned by oil tycoons, entertainers, or dreamers, each jet told a story of what happens when wealth meets sky. And as the engines roared and wheels lifted off, they all whispered the same secret: the world looks different when seen from above, in your own machine.